Everyone's blaming the wrong people, while other channels are attacking Indiana Fever players as toxic saboteurs. They're missing the real villain, destroying Caitlin Clark's championship window. I'm Jax Riley, and I've been filtering through the digital noise, connecting the dots that nobody else wants to acknowledge. The temperature of the online conversation is absolutely scorching around one name, and it's not a player. It's Stephanie White. And what I've uncovered about her systematic mismanagement will shock you. Before we dive into this coaching conspiracy, hit that like button if you're tired of surface-level analysis that blames players instead of addressing the real systematic failures. We're about to expose exactly why Indiana's championship window is being wasted. And trust me, the evidence is damning. Here's what we're covering today. First, the tactical disasters that are destroying Clark's effectiveness. Second, the locker room decisions that are creating the very problems everyone's blaming on individual players. Third, the financial implications of White's failures that could cost Indiana their entire championship timeline. And finally, the smoking gun evidence that proves this coaching experiment has already failed. The other channels won't tell you this because they're focused on easy targets. But the real story, it's about a coach who's systematically undermining the most talented player in women's basketball. Let's start with the tactical nightmare that's been hiding in plain sight. Here's what they missed in all those player-blaming videos. Stephanie White made a decision this season that fundamentally breaks everything that makes Caitlin Clark special. She moved Clark off ball and started Ari McDonald as the primary point guard. Think about that for a second. You have the most dynamic playmaker in WNBA history, someone who led the league in assists as a rookie, and you decide to take the ball out of her hands. The numbers tell the story that White doesn't want you to see. When Clark operates on ball, Indiana's offense hums at elite efficiency. When she's relegated to standing in the corner waiting for kickouts, the entire system collapses. But here's where it gets worse. And this is where I start reading the signals that other analysts completely ignore. The official sources won't tell you this, but if you follow the digital breadcrumbs through coaching forums and advanced analytics communities, a different picture emerges. White's off-ball experiment wasn't about maximizing team talent. It was about ego. She wanted to prove she could succeed with her system rather than adapting to Clark's generational abilities. The result, Clark's assist numbers dropped. Her shooting efficiency declined from contested catch and OT situations. And most critically, her leadership on the court got neutered. You can't direct traffic from the corner. You can't see developing plays when you're spotting up for threes. And you absolutely cannot establish the pace and rhythm that made Clark's Iowa teams legendary when you're waiting for someone else to make decisions. But the off-ball disaster was just the beginning. Let me show you how White's timeout management has been actively sabotaging momentum. If you've been watching Fever games with any analytical eye, you've noticed something infuriating. Stephanie White calls timeouts at the worst possible moments and fails to call them when the team desperately needs intervention. I've been tracking this pattern, and it's not random, it's systematic failure. When Clark gets hot and starts orchestrating those signature scoring runs that collapse opposing defenses, White calls timeout and kills the momentum. When Indiana's getting blown out and players are visibly frustrated, she lets it ride. The temperature of the online conversation around White's timeout management is absolutely brutal. Fever fans have started tracking these decisions, and their pattern is undeniable. She doesn't understand basketball rhythm, and it's costing Indiana games they should be winning easily. But here's what really connects the dots. The locker room body language after these momentum-killing timeouts. Players come out of huddles looking confused, not energized. That's not player toxicity. That's coaching. Confusion. Now we're getting into rumor territory. Nothing is officially confirmed, but the online chatter is too loud to ignore. Multiple sources in coaching circles are suggesting that White's timeout strategy isn't just bad. It's deliberately designed to showcase her control rather than maximize team success. When you're managing a generational talent like Caitlin Clark, your job is to amplify her abilities, not constrain them with micromanagement. But White's timeout patterns suggest the opposite philosophy entirely. This brings us to the most damaging tactical decision of all. White's implementation of a slower pace that completely contradicts Clark's natural basketball DNA. Clark thrives in transition. Her court vision, her quick decision-making, her ability to find teammates in semi-transition situations. These are the skills that made her a generational college player and should be making her a WNBA champion right now. Instead, White has implemented a half-court system that forces Clark to play in phone booth spaces against said defenses. It's like taking a Formula One race car and making it navigate a parking garage. The numbers don't lie here. When Indiana pushes pace, their offensive efficiency jumps dramatically. When they slow it down to White's preferred tempo, they become mediocre. But the coaching staff continues pushing this slower style. And here's why that's so damaging. It's not just about Clark's individual effectiveness. The entire roster construction was built around pace and space. Kelsey Mitchell's quick trigger shooting, Sophie Cunningham's transition scoring, even Aaliyah Boston's ability to run the floor. All of these elements work perfectly in an uptempo system. But in White's slow-paced approach, Mitchell looks ball-dominant because she's forced to create in isolation. Cunningham's energy becomes wasted because there are fewer transition opportunities. Boston's mobility advantage disappears in grinding half-court possessions. Suddenly, those toxic players everyone's blaming start looking like the wrong pieces for the wrong system. But that's not player failure. That's coaching malpractice. The official explanation from the coaching staff focuses on defensive stability and learning proper pace. But I've been filtering out the noise from insider basketball communities, and the real temperature is much different. Coaches around the league are privately questioning White's understanding of modern offensive basketball. When you have Caitlin Clark, you build a race car offense. When you try to turn that into a dump truck system, everyone suffers. Now let's address the elephant in the room that those other analysis videos completely missed. They spent 20 minutes blaming individual players for toxicity and undermining Clark, but they missed the two most important facts that completely destroy their entire premise. Sydney Carlson and Ari McDonald, two of the players being blamed for veteran toxicity, both suffered season-ending injuries on August 7th. Carlson tore her